Okay. All right, here we go. Okay. Hi, I'm Chiara Covone. I'm an executive coach and a mental fitness coach, and I'm here today to share with you what mental fitness is and why you really want to know all about it. Mental fitness is your ability to respond to life challenges with a positive, thriving mind rather than a surviving and negative mindset. And the impact you can have with mental fitness is peak performance, healthy relationship, and really peace of mind and wellness and happiness. Let me give you a bit of background here. This is based on a huge amount of research, and it really melts together the learnings of positive psychology, neuroscience, cognitive psychology, and performance sciences, all taken together, adding 500,000 people in a study, resulted in this positive intelligence science. This is done on hundreds of CEOs and their executive teams. It's done on world-class athletes, on people from world-class universities, and really taking people from a lot of different countries. So this is not just skewed on one type of personality. And the results are summarized actually in a wonderful book by Shizal Shamin called Positive Intelligence. So the result of this study is really based on factor analysis. Factor analysis is a way to synthesize, to really simplify all the information that we have. And if I can give you an example in color, when we do factor analysis in color, we find out that actually you only need 3 colors, red, blue, and yellow, to create an amazing palette of thousands of colors. This is really the power of synthesizing what is the color that can explain most variability in the colors. And the same has been applied into this study on 500,000 plus people. So the question was, what are the factors that are responsible for our success, our happiness, healthy relationship, our peak performance, and what stays in the way for us to achieve those successes? And it turns out that there is not hundreds of ways we sabotage ourselves and we reduce our impact and our performance potential. There is only 10 factors on the negative side that we want to take care of and understand on the negative side. And actually there is 5 positive factors that are responsible for our happiness and thriving and relationship and peak performance. So this is really what we find out, that these are the key elements we want to be understanding. Now, we understand that intellectually, but what do I do with this information? How can I translate that insight into actually something that will change my behavior? And this is where mental fitness comes in. We want to be developing 3 core muscles that are at the root of mental fitness, that are responsible for you to shifting from a survival brain to a thriving brain, from a negative mindset to a positive mindset. The 3 muscles are the saboteur interceptor, the sage powers, and the self-command. And let me go into greater details into each one of them. So the saboteur interceptor. All of us have an inner voice that I'm sure you're familiar with. Call it the judge, call it the inner critic. It's a voice that tells us that we're not good enough, that we are not responsible, that we're not able to do a task, that we are thinking that other people are better than us. That inner critic is, I'm sure, a voice that you recognize. But the thing is that actually the judge is much more complex than that. It's much more sophisticated than that. It turns out that, in fact, the judge has 3 different modes of sabotaging ourselves. First of all, it sabotages yourself by telling you you're not good enough. So it's judging yourself. The second way is judging others. You're continuously judging others and reference them towards you. They're either better than you or they're worse than you. There is always this fighting and competing and comparing ourselves with others. And the third really very subtle way in which the judge sabotages us is by judging situations. That voice that tells you you're only going to be happy when. right? That continuous negotiating and dealing with, we want to be first achieving that result to then be happy. People are going to the graves still renegotiating the last criteria for happiness. So that's really an enemy that is hidden is much more dangerous than an enemy that it is actually in the light. So I want you really to become aware of the fact that this judge in us that has some evolutionary reasons why we have it. In some ways, it has been very helpful to run away from tigers when we were risking. So that continuously looking for problems has been always in the ancient days very helpful, but it's not very helpful when we're trying to get a project or building a relationship with a colleague. So the judge doesn't come by himself. I told you that there is 10 factors that are responsible for our of sabotaging our performance. So the judge has some 9 other accomplice saboteurs that are actually supporting him. And the key thing here is that actually this is the overall look of the different 9 saboteurs. You have controller, the hyperachiever, the restless, the stickler, the pleaser, hypervigilant, avoider, victim, hyperrational. And now some of these you will recognize as, yeah, I want to be an achiever. Yes, I want to be a controller. These are actually good things for you. And that's the point. The judge and the saboteurs take something that is your strength, but it abuses it. It overuses it. So then it becomes something that plays against you. So each one of us has actually 2 main accomplice saboteurs that the judge has that supports this negative nagging and this chat box in our head. So you don't need to deal with all of 10 of them. If you deal with the first 2, you're actually taking care of all the other ones. So I'm going to give you an example here of somebody that a client and her profile. You can take the same profile and assessment. You will see the link later in this presentation. And you can find out who are your accomplice saboteurs, who are your main saboteurs that sabotages you on a day-to-day, that really limits your performance. In this case, it was the stickler and the hyperachiever. And don't pay so much attention on the overall value and score. Is really more the ranking that you want to pay attention. Who are your top 2 saboteurs? So we have 10 saboteurs and 5 sage powers. Now, the point is that, as I mentioned before, you might think like, well, hold on a second. The saboteurs, those inner judge, is actually good for me, right? It motivates me through negative emotion. When it tells me that I want to achieve more, it actually makes me achieve more. And the problem is that, yes, you can achieve that, but you're not going to achieve, you're going to achieve those at a huge cost. Emotions like fear, stress, anger, guilt, shame, insecurity are coming along with that desire to achieve success. On the other side, the sage is much more encourage you to achieve those results with a much more empathetic, curious mind, with creativity and passion and purpose. You think you can achieve the results in both ways, but actually the sage will get you far further away with those positive emotions than what you can get with those negative emotions of fear, anger, etc. So on the negative side, the 10 saboteurs might generate success, but not happiness, not fulfillment, not self-actualization. You're leaving a lot of people on the road with your negativity. The sage powers makes you achieve success, high success, and sustained happiness. So are negative emotions good for you? Let me ask you a question. Is pain good for you? Right? Think about this hand on a hot stove. How long do you want to keep that hand on the stove? 1 second, 2 seconds? It's going to burn, right? And that is the same with negative emotion. Negative emotions are helpful for 1 second. They are alert. And we actually really want to be listening to them. They're telling us something. But staying into negative emotion, that hurts your ability to see clearly and respond to the challenge you have ahead with empathy and curiosity and creativity. So negative emotions are the tools of the saboteurs. Positive emotions are the tools of the sage. Do you want to keep the hand on the stove? What are the consequences? What is this costing you to keep the hand on the stove? What is the costing you of listening to those lies of the saboteurs and thinking that he's right? Let's talk about the sage. The sage lives in the part of the brain, mostly of some parts of the right brain, and is associated with positive emotion, with peace and calm, clear-headed focus, creativity, big picture, long-term success. So we're operating from the sage perspective. And the sage perspective, what does it say? Is that everything that happens to you in life can be turned into a gift and an opportunity if you're really looking into that. So which perspective is true? The saboteur is telling you, this is bad, bad, bad. And the sage is telling you, this is a gift. Look at it. What can we learn from this? So which perspective is true? The answer, whichever you believe. This is a self-fulfilling prophecy. You believe it's bad, it will be bad. You believe it's good, it's a gift, it will be a gift. You have such a power. And now I want to introduce you to the third muscle you want to build in mental fitness, which is the SelfCommand muscle. This is about doing 10 seconds PQ repetition. Think about going to the gym, right? This is exactly the same. You want to build a muscle. We can't build change, sustainable change, just by intellectually understanding things. We will need practice. Like you can't, building your muscles by just looking at somebody else lifting the weights for you, right? This is exactly the same. I want you to do an exercise with me right here. Take 2 fingertips and gently rub them between each other with such a tension that you can feel the bridges on the fingertips in each finger. Now take the one hand and rub all the fingers on the palm and fingertips of the other hand, feeling all those sensations. If we had an MRI scan on your head, we would see that this part of the brain, the left side of the brain, the gray matter had become a little bit quieter, and the right side of the brain has become a little bit more active in just a few seconds of PQ reps. So this is really the simplicity of our operating system. If you're feeling your emotions, please stop. It's a signal. Listen to it. Don't get numb. Don't deny it, but understand it. Where is it coming from? What am I thinking? Why am I feeling like that? Do I want to keep thinking in this saboteur mode, or do I want to shift and look at opportunities? You intercept, you do some PQ reps, as we just did, and then you can switch to the sage perspective. The point is that we need that intercept and we need to do those PQ reps because those two parts of the brain, they don't interact with each other. If you are on the left side of the brain, you can't access the right side. This is where the PQ reps, this repetition allows you to shift, to make the shift. Assume the sage perspective and think that every problem can be turned into a gift and an opportunity. Generate the gift by using those sage powers like empathy, creativity, navigation, innovation, activation, clear-headed action. So is it really possible to just shift from saboteur to sage response, even in tough challenges? Yes, but the speed and depth of the shift depends on the mental muscles. You want to think of mental muscle really on a scale from -10 plus 10. When you start, you can't lift so heavy lifting, right? You're going to start with something very light. Otherwise, your muscles will get sore and you're going to burn yourself. So you want to be taking it very slow and really take the time to build the muscles in our brains, in our mind, that allows you to face bigger and bigger challenges. So we want to start small and really building our time up. This is not an exercise that you can do overnight. It takes time, but actually in 6 weeks only, you can already see that this shift, this mental brain this gray matter has much more power. This mental muscle has already been building with just 6 weeks versus when you start. So you can't build lasting change by just looking at insights. A lot of the traditional coaching focuses on you to look at the insights. Love it. But how can we maintain, how can we really establish a long-lasting change? That happens only by building muscles. So success requires intense initial practice. We're talking about 6 to 8 weeks, 15 minutes a day. You can't defeat a gang of 10 bandits by sending one fighter per day for 100 days, right? You're not going to win. So we want to be building an intense practice in 6 weeks, intense, and that will create the foundation for your lifelong experience of being a mental fit person. Let me share with you a little bit the outline of the 6 weeks, what you can expect. The first week is focused on boosting your self-command muscle. Remember, I told you about we have 3 muscles that we have to build. So the first week, we're going to focus on how to build the first muscle, which is the self-command muscle. The second week is building the other muscle, the second muscle, which is intercept the judge saboteurs. The third week, you're going to be working on your top accomplished saboteurs and intercept that. Week 4, we're going to be training on how to shift from the saboteurs to the sage. Week 5, we're going to actually then boost the sage powers. And week 6, we're going to take clear-headed, laser-focused action, so really leveraging our sage superpowers. We're going to have a last video and the last part session at the beginning of week 7. This is going to be the wrap-up session that is really about how do we sustain momentum, how do we have all the different applications that now we can use this operating system that we have built. Now, the application requirements are really about you committing the 15 minutes per day. 80% of the benefits will come from your daily app guided exercises, practices, and exercises. The question is, will you do them? Will you take the time for it? And the other requirement is that you join those weekly group coaching. Pod accountability and working with me on that peer circle group will basically propel you by 500% chances for your success. There is tons of studies and research that proves how much having accountability partners will actually boost your success. So this is, for me, a requirement that you actually join those sessions. Will you make time for it? So I want to give you a little bit of a run through of how this is all going to work. So you're going to be applying before the end of October, and then we're going to start on November 1st. On this week, you will take the assessment latest by the Wednesday of the week of November 1st. You can download the app, and then on the Saturday, this is when you will have the possibility to watch the video. We're going to be meeting on Monday at 4 p.m. every Monday. And in this case, you can see what the focus of the day is: 2 minutes every 3 hours that you have scheduled and structured throughout the day. So this is really how you can expect then from November 1st and right before the winter holidays to actually be mental fit. I think it's an exciting program. I look forward to having you on board. And so go further down on this page and apply it to reserve your spot. Thank you for joining me today.